We're going to bring the meeting of East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors, AM, Thursday, February 5th, 2026. Recording device will be in use during this meeting. Opening of the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments for agenda items. Rules for conduct of public meetings established Resolution 2001-08. The time allocated to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. Do we have any public comment on agenda items? Seeing none, we will move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Approval of the January 15th, 2026 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 15th.
I get a second? All in favor? Aye. All right, Treasurer's Report, authorization to pay the bills, approve payroll. I did review it. Everything looked fine to me. Do we have a motion to approve it? Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and authorization to pay bills.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business. There is no old business. We will move on to new business. Recommendation of Wesley Wolf of the Open Space Committee. Luke, that's you.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Included in your packet this morning is a volunteer application form. This is a standard form from our website. The applicant is Wesley Wolf. The position is a member of the Open Space Committee. This morning, I'm pleased to report that the Open Space Committee is recommending Mr. Wolf be appointed to the Open Space Committee. And therefore, I also recommend that this morning the Board of Supervisors appoint Mr. Wolf to a seat at the Open Space Committee.
Any questions on Mr. Wolf? Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
To approve Mr. Wesley Wolf to the Open Space Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next one is recommendation of Jack Alsey to the Trails Committee. Noah?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. In your packet, you also see a volunteer application for Mr. Alsey. At the January 13th Trails Committee meeting, the committee voted to recommend the appointment of Mr. Alsey to the Trails Committee. He is a longtime East Brandywine resident, recently retired from a career in healthcare IT. He's an active hiker and biker and also a member of the Chester County Trail Club. The committee believes that he would be a strong asset to the township and respectfully requests that the board appoint him to the Trails Committee.
Okay. Any questions on Mr. Alsey?
Make a motion to appoint Jack Alsey to the Trails Committee.
Get a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, next one is the Lafayette College Study, Proposal Strategic Workforce and Compensation Study. Luke?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at this time I recommend that we table this agenda item for a future meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Staff is not prepared to make a presentation on this topic.
All right, table that. Next one is the 2026 MPDES MS4 Permit Support Services. Luke?
Thank you. If I could ask to queue up a precisely one slide PowerPoint presentation. Stormwater is one of those things that means a lot of things to different people. In your packet this morning is a proposal for professional services from Cedarville. The particular services included in this proposal are those depicted on the screen and surrounded by the dashed red lines. So it's not everything related to stormwater, but it is a certain subset of that. Stormwater is a perfect storm or a hat trick of unfunded mandates. There's a federal county and state regulation. At the federal level, the township must have an MS4 permit. At the state level, the state mandates through Act 167 that we adopt the county stormwater plan. And the county produces a model ordinance. That model ordinance exists in our code book as Chapter 345. So this is as I say, a hat trick of unfunded mandates in federalism here. On the far left column, you will see a process that small projects go through for developments that include needing to manage stormwater. It starts with a building application. Cedarville reviews that permit, and during construction, Arrow, who is our codes official, supervises the erosion and sedimentation controls and the construction of those best management practices for stormwater. At the conclusion of that, we have a new process, and that is that the perpetual inspections post-construction are now being done by staff, most specifically Noah here at the front table. That historically has been a task performed by Cedarville. It is not in your current proposal. Large projects, which are those projects that involve more than an acre of disturbance, they're generally land developments, are regulated by both the local Chapter 345, and that applicant will have their own MPDS permit. And responsibility for ensuring erosion and sedimentation controls and reviewing applications is shared. In that case, Pannoni does the reviews and Pannoni does the site inspections. And then the finished product are inspected as part of the post-construction stormwater management inspections that are included in the proposal. In addition to those workflows where we're creating new impervious surface, there's also a series of administrative tasks necessary to actually administer the MS4 permit. And those are the 6 items you see in the right column. So I'm happy to talk about any of the things within those dashed lines and included in the scope of this proposal for services. I'll skip to the bottom line. These 7 items are proposed on a time and material basis to be $44,100 for 2026. And at this time, I'd recommend that the board authorize staff to execute this proposal for professional services, but I'm also happy to answer any questions you may have about it.
All right, so I guess I'll start off. You're saying this is a time and material basis, and it has totaled out at $44,100. And their proposal shows fixed fees, so they have presentation and training at $6,000. Who are they training? And how are they training for that service?
Okay, so the training appears on page 2, and it is item 1.0. And let me start with the who is your question, which is there is a public presentation that is required, and there is an employee training that is required. And to answer the question you didn't ask, who requires it? It is part of our minimum control measure numbers 1 and 2 as part of the MS4 permit.
And with regards to the mapping, these maps are already established, and that $4,500 for mapping is the maintenance of those maps or updates of those maps?
So you're correct. The existing system is mapped as a GIS layer. The $4,500 would be maintenance and updating.
Okay. Then the next item is BMP inspections. Now, they have a line item of $9,200 for that. So weren't we bringing those inspections for small projects in-house?
We were, and hence I made this, because this is incredibly confusing even to me. Not the big projects. The small projects are being brought in-house.
Yes, that's correct.
Right, so that the inspections that you see itemized here are the big project
For the larger
inspections.
projects that
Correct.
are out there.
HOA-owned basins and the like.
Gotcha.
And you said Noah's doing the inspections of the smaller ones?
We,
I heard you say earlier, post, or,
Well, it'll be a self-inspection
Right.
program that NOAA's initiating and
exactly.
managing.
The owners of those small decentralized BMPs will do a self-inspection and complete a survey when prompted. And that process is being administered by NOAA.
okay. My only concern with that is there was a property, I can't remember, it escapes me the property, but the one where it wasn't being inspected, it was off of Well Road, and it ended up being overgrowth, and culvert had to be, and it was part of a sale, and it held up the sale, and then there was, had to get returned to the, I believe that was one that was either overlooked or supposed to be self-managed.
That may have been a stormwater system that was in place many years ago as well,
Yeah.
that wasn't put into the queue. I mean, some of the ones that are 20 years old,
Yeah, it was older. It
You
was
don't
much
have
older.
any understanding or knowledge of those. I think this is, once these ordinances were required, and we were required as a township to get involved in these, that we started documenting the stormwaters. But the ones prior to that, we have no idea what people have out their properties.
So let's look at the left column and talk small projects. When I say we're required to do regular follow-ups to ensure that they're working and that we're going to do them in-house, the trigger for that, the legal rationale for that is at the conclusion of every small project, they record a stormwater operations and maintenance agreement at the recorder of deeds. Those operations and maintenance agreements describe the inspection schedule. If you look at the middle column, there's actually quite a few, well, I won't say quite a few, there are a few large basins that predate 2014 that do not appear on the inspection list. So I don't recall exactly what location was in your anecdote, Supervisor Scrivener, but there are some large community-wide basins that would predate the current regulatory regime.
And the smaller ones, is it every 3 years?
There's been two separate sets of model O&M agreements. Originally, it was, well, let me say currently, because I can remember that. It's once a year for 3 years, and then every 5 years thereafter? Or is it once a year for 5 years?
Once every year for 5 years.
And then every 3 years thereafter. And then there was another version that was, if you remember offhand, was it every 5 years?
Yeah.
And was it the 5 years starting on the completion of the system, or was it started on when we started implementing the inspections? Because you could be inspecting one that's 5 years old right now for the first time, or 3 years old for the first time.
Kind of the start date when we.
Yeah, but I'm using mine for an example because I brought this up years and years ago, or months and months ago, where I had two college kids walking around my yard, had no idea what they were looking for, and they were in and out in 5 minutes, and then I get a notice that they were there for an inspection. I don't even know if they even looked at it, they couldn't find it.
Will you please pass me the mouse for this? I need an indicating tool here. What we see here is the bottom entry on the left side. We're going to talk about the history of that bottom entry on the left side, but I want to first just remind everybody that it's outside the current proposal that the board is considering. Originally, Cedarville performed this task, and the way Cedarville would do this task is send a notice to household that says sometime in this period we will do an inspection, and then they would show up and do the inspection, and people would be surprised to find people from Cedarville in their backyard. There was a second phase where we said, okay, Cedarville, in one of these proposals, you need to schedule each appointment with each homeowner individually, and we did that for a while. And now we're in the third phase of that problematic task, which is we don't do on-site inspections at all. Now they get a letter in the mail and fill out an online survey to report the condition. So we're in the third iteration of our plan to meet our obligation in the left column, bottom.
I just worry that someone's gonna sell their house and say, I did a self-inspection, it's good, move on, and then all of a sudden, it's somebody else's problem a year later when they find out that it's not actually working. And they said, well, it was working up until the day I left, so.
And that could be for any
Right.
apparatus of the house. I mean, there's things that happen.
Maybe
Yeah, I would-
the home inspectors have to add that into their
Yeah, I.
arsenal.
That's a private situation there. I mean, the only comments that I have, and I've talked to Luke about this, is I'd like to see, I mean, I know Luke's comfortable with Cedarville, and he has a working relationship, and I'm not, I'd like to see us bid this to some other engineer.
All right, I just want to interrupt you on one statement. You said it's a private issue. It is a private issue, but the homeowner is responsible to fix it to the township's ask. So it's really not private, because if the township says you have to put $1 million stormwater management, the homeowner has no recourse. They have to do what the township asks.
Kyle, so I was talking with Luke about this the other day because I had some of the same questions about the independent surveys and the homeowners doing the surveys. Showed me the questions and it made me more comfortable because it was things like, is your drain clogged? Do you park vehicles on top of it? Is the vegetation? I think there were 5 or 6 questions that were pretty. It wasn't things like, you know, are the pipes cracked under the thing? So that made me feel a little bit better.
And I don't even
about
think we would be
having,
inspecting the pipes anyway. I think we would just confirm that it's actually there and it's working.
By way of further complicating, on that left column, everybody who goes through that process will either be in a simplified method or an engineered method. The simplified method has a standard set of maintenance requirements, and that's what we reviewed. We looked at the required maintenance for a simplified method. All simplified methods are trenches with rocks and perforated pipe. It has just a few parts you can even see from the surface. But I am very confident that homeowners will be able to review and report on the condition of their infiltration trenches. I think as we talk about operationalizing a survey, there are other engineered BMPs that may be specific, and to that, I will, if there are questions about the way those are inspected, I'm gonna loop Noah into the conversation because he's written that questionnaire.
So the goal, you know, how we got here is that we were getting complaints from homeowners with these systems, and we were trying to make it simple for the homeowner so that they weren't overburdened with a lot of regulations and complications with regards to their homes, their stormwater systems, and their lives. So this simplifies things for that homeowner with this specific type of system.
One thing I will say too about the questions, it's all modeled based on the homeowner's specific BMP. So if they were to have a rain garden, a infiltration trench, all the questions are specific to that BMP. We also have photos that are required during the inspection. So that way we can at least have visuals of what the BMP looks like, and we can see if there's erosion, we can see if there's things blocking the infiltration inlets and outlets. So there's the way in which we did it, we made it simplified, but at the same time we wanted there to be some accountability for the homeowners, and that's why we tailored it to the specific BMPs, and then had that requirement where they have to upload at least 3 photos either to the survey or either emailing it to myself so we can actually have eyes on the BMP itself.
Yeah, in my comments, as I began to say, was about the process. We're with Cedarville, and I'd like us to get other bids. I mean, at this point, we have $44,100. We have no other bids from no other engineering firms to provide the same services. There's task lines 1 through 7. I'm sure we could send out a request to various other engineering companies to get a comparison for these costs. And I'd like to see us do that in the future. We haven't done it. I've been pushing to do it for the last couple of years, and that's my comments on this proposal. That's why I don't support Cedarville during the reorganization because I'd like to see us look into other possible services from other companies. That's my only comments.
I assume we currently have a contract with Cedarville. See it.
The prior one would have ended at the end of last year. So you could say for the first month of 2026, we have not had an agreement with Cedarville.
Okay.
But again, if you look at the tasks within the proposal, most of them occur, like a training. That happens one day
Yes.
in the year. That's not really happens every single day of the year. Most of these things, like the reporting, the presentations, the mapping, can be done at any point in a given year. So I'm not alarmed that we've gone a month without an agreement with Cedarville.
And in addition, they're an at-will service, so we can terminate them at any time. So choose.
Right.
Move on with someone else. So if we approve this, we can work with them, and if for some reason we decide we'd like to work with someone else, we can certainly look into doing it.
A question, Luke, because there's another Cedarville block up there, the less than an acre plan review. Is that included in this contract? Is it not, or do we have a separate contract?
That is not not included in this scope of services. All right. That task has a revenue stream, unlike the other tasks. It has a revenue stream because applicants pay a stormwater application fee and a stormwater permit fee and an O&M fee. That particular task, the blue box that is not surrounded by red dashed lines, is more similar to what our codes officials do, which is at Arrow. I will say, I feel like Cedarville is responsive, so I'm going to say, when I hear critiques of Cedarville's performance, the box you've indicated is actually the area where I hear complaints. So if we think anecdotally about people who have come and talked about their experience with Cedarville, I don't want to. There was a gentleman at Rock Raymond and Dowland Forge that said he had a bad experience with the BMP being installed and inspected. That falls under that task. If you will recall the long conversation we had with the owners of 2018 and 2020 Bondsville, the Economides family that was seeking relief from the particular terms of our Chapter 345, Cedarville was acting in their capacity as a reviewer of a residential building permit. That's also the task there. So generally, when we talk about homeowners being unhappy with being told they have to manage stormwater, that's the task right there in the top left. That's an issue.
But it's not in this contract.
It's not in this contract.
And we have a separate contract with them for that, or they
No,
just do
they're
it?
just appointed. That's
Okay.
what occurred at the annual
Got it.
meeting when Cedarville was appointed as the stormwater engineer.
Got it.
In the same way that Arrow was appointed as codes official and Pannoni was appointed as township engineer.
Well, for today's purposes, I think this is fine. If Francis was interested in an RFP, I think that that should also be something that maybe a couple suggestions get brought about on who, but I don't have a problem with either one right now. RFP in the future or all for housekeeping purposes today.
So what I need is a motion
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
for the 2026 MPDES MS4 permit support services. Do that, Kyle?
Yep, I'll make the motion for the 2026 MPDS MS4 permit support services.
Get a second?
I'm sorry, if I may, as a friendly amendment, so that we can properly memorialize expectations of the township manager, can we add to that motion authorizing me to execute the current, but for 2027 to present at least 3 options to the board?
As stated by the township manager.
Okay, can I get a second on that?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so next one is the Bondsville Mill proposed 2026 construction goals and priorities.
Good morning, all. I think you all know me, Jim Buxella. This year, I am the vice chair of the Bronzeville Mill Park Committee. I've stepped back after 10 years in the leadership position. Bob Watts is taking over the chair position this year. For this presentation, I'm going to give a brief overview, 5 minutes or so, of the accomplishments for focusing on the construction work done at the park for the project. And then Bob Watts will get up and present the proposal for the construction work in 2026. So there's the mill in the late 19th century, and those buildings are the buildings that are still present that we've in large part rehabilitated so far this year, or over the course of the park development project. There's the Bonds Mill factory just to the left of the seam in the map, dating 1847. And these series of photos here is the condition of the park which the township purchased or the mill, which the township purchased in 2005. I took these photographs in 2007. So this is the condition that we were dealing with from the start of the project. And for the building rehabilitation work that we've accomplished thus far, this is Building A, which is at the far left end of the building complex. And this was the condition at the start of the Building A project. And our volunteers doing the work. Again, all hand-constructed doors, windows, roof, and that's the end product for Building A. And we did get occupancy for that, and we have used it in the past for programs at the park. And then Building C was the other focus for rehabilitation. And here the roof is still on there, but the roof had to be removed to avoid its collapse, pushing the masonry walls apart. These photographs were all taken in 2019 by me, with the exception of some of the aerial photographs which were taken from the lift that was used to place a cap on the chimney in 2014. You can see we pretty much gutted the Building C, all 3 floors. And then built a frame up through the center, which provides for the floors, but also provides stability for the masonry walls, similar to what we did in Building A. Roof, most of the window sashes installed, and that is the building pretty much in the condition that it is today, right around the time of the dedication of the culp clearing garden in front of in the foreground of the mill buildings. You can see the stair towers all complete and closed up, and the siding on the east side of Building A to the left has been installed. And this is Building F. This work was actually done before Buildings A and C. And the remarkable construction of this clear story. And what was found, they had intended to rehabilitate that entire building, which ran all the way to the buildings on the left, to the left of that. But the timber in there was in such poor shape, they decided to just reconstruct an example of what that building looked like. So here's a layout of the mill buildings. Buildings A and C are towards the left-hand side, and building B was separated designation-wise from building A because it was in such a poor state of collapse. Sections A and B are really one building that went all the way up to building C. It was a long building, but the section B was in such a poor state of collapse, they separated that from building A. Building F is the example of the monitor roofs section that was reconstructed. And then sections D and E are that which contains the power unit, the steam power unit. One of the interesting things about this mill is the progression from water power through steam to eventually all electric over the course of its 100-year history. In the foreground of those buildings is sections G and H. If you recall the earlier photographs, there was a large clear-story building that is section G, which was a metal frame building, and section H, which was an early 20th century building, masonry building, was the building that was completely collapsed in the foreground of that. The township used the salvage price of the steel frame of section G to remove all of the debris in G and H, and that resulted in a large concrete pad area in the foreground of the 19th century mill buildings. So the focus of the building rehabilitation work on A and C, there was an urgency there because of the amount of collapse and the need to focus on the rehabilitation of those buildings. The current concern is the areas of sections D and E where the steamworks are located. This is a schematic that Rocky had developed several years ago. The concrete pad area is to the left side of these mill buildings. You can see building A at the top, C in the center, and then D and E towards the bottom. And you can see the tunnel areas defined and where the boilers are in the mill buildings there. So these pictures were taken in 2019 also, which show the condition of the building D and E area at the time. These are the two huge boilers that powered the steam plant, and they were built, as you can see, in Coatesville. There's Coatesville embossed on the boiler doors there. The condition of the bricks at the base of that tall chimney. The tunnel area entrance is to the center of this photograph. That leads into the area behind Building D. See some of the conditions there. But we would really like to explore this area and fully understand what's there and what needs to be done and exactly how that operated. Another aerial photograph from 2014. You can see there's a lot of debris and vegetation in there. That was all removed between the 2014 photos and the 2019 photos. All of that's been cleaned out. And this is Building E. You can see the top corner. The bricks are deteriorating there. Again, this photograph was taken in 2019. So the condition of that is decelerating, I should say. It's falling apart. This is the top area of the tunnel area where the steam pipes are, pump room. and that's roughly where we were during the building, before the building and A and C work, in aerial 2014, and this was where we are today. In addition to the work that the construction crew has done on the mill buildings, they were a key to the success of the garden project, the culvert clearing garden project, which is the 1 acre garden that was installed in the foreground of the mill buildings there. And without the construction crew to install the amended soils and the hardscape pathways and utilities and the oversight of the water well installation, the project would not have happened. So they spent 2 years distracted from the building work on this project, and now are refocusing on the buildings. And again, this is the area of the concrete pad. You have the metal frame of building G and the collapsed building H in the foreground. All of that was removed, which resulted in this. And then this is shortly after the garden was installed. Different perspective on that. So that's where we are with the buildings as we stand right now. I'll also add that there's an interest in rehabilitating the mill race that leads into the mill, reestablishing that. And I also want to point out that the township received finally a determination of eligibility for listing of the Bondsville Historic District, of which the mill is a part, which opens up the opportunity to Keystone grants. To apply for those grants, we really need the clear vision of where we're going with our parks so that we can tell the story in our grant applications. The other thing I want to point out is through the development of this park, there has been a consistency of vision. I've been involved with the park since 2006, initially as the liaison from the Historical Commission, and then direct involvement with the Bondsville Mill Park Committee, and then acting as its chair since 2015. And I'm just stepping back into the vice chair role this year. Hud Volz, who has been involved with the park since its inception, having been a board of supervisor for 24 years, and as an active liaison between the board of supervisors and the Bondsville Mill Park. He became a member of the Bondsville Mill Park Committee after he stepped away from the board of supervisors, which I think, Kyle, you filled his seat, which that's approaching 12 years now. And he acted as the committee's vice chair until just this past year. Scott Pearsall was a very active township manager and very involved with the Bondsville Mill Park Committee, and directed its development. Rocky Stone's involvement with the project started in 2012 when he purchased the neighboring property and doubled the size of the park to 47 acres in the process of doing that. As part of that purchase, he provided an easement to the head of the head race of the park to provide access to the water connection to that mill, with the interest of eventually providing water to the mill. So there was forethought involved at the purchase stage of providing that easement for that purpose. He also came with a huge benefit of his expertise in the renovation, rehabilitation of historic structures, and his connection with inexpensive supplies of quality lumber and key milling services. I mean, he owns a mill, and I think his sons primarily run it now. But that was a huge factor, not only his expertise in guiding the work, but his access to inexpensive lumber and donated milling services to the park project. Without that, we wouldn't have had the expedited progress on the buildings that we did over the last 12 years or so. And I'll also point out that all volunteers of the township work to help the township meet and reach its goals. And this set of volunteers is no exception to that. All the work that's been done out there has been to help the township achieve its goals of development of this park into a facility that can be appreciated and used by the public, and it is. In all of the people I've talked to across the county and many, many presentations and in my involvement in the historical community across the county, I have had nothing but praise over what's happened with this project here. And historically, the Bonsall Park Committee, and specifically the construction crew, have been given a great deal of flexibility in how the goals of the township were met. So we're asking for a return to that approach where we set general goals and allow these volunteers the freedom to achieve those goals with the expertise that they have and in the way they see fit. So with that, I'll pass the presentation off to Bob Watts, our committee chair, and he can present the proposal for the 2026 building work. Any questions on any of that?
I think it was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. For those who don't know me, as Jim has said, I'm Bob Watts. Been associated with the mill for probably about 6 years, on the committee about 5, and now I'm the chairman. So the whole purpose of this presentation is to present a proposal to you guys about how to proceed in the future for the construction part of the mill. And in the past, as Jim has showed you, what the volunteers can do when given a goal and allowed them to determine how to do it and what sequence and everything like that. And in some of the pictures that he has shown you, that actually the condition of the mill has deteriorated over the last 6, 7, 12 years, to the point where what the construction crew would like to do is to be able to go through and do a survey looking at the condition of all of the mill, not just concentrating on a couple buildings. So what we're proposing is allow them, the construction crew, to be able to determine how to proceed, in what manner, and what sequencing. And so what we have developed, what Rocky's developed, is the scope of work for 2006, and then after this survey, determine how to proceed. And without being, being more self-directed. And once they are, you can see how it's gone from what it was in 2014 to now, and what they've been able to do. So that's what we're presenting, and that is what we're asking. There's a little bit freedom for the construction crew to proceed in the coming years. So do you guys have any questions that you would like us? If you're determining the actual scope of work, that's what Rocky can answer. If you have other questions, I'm here for that.
And before you go ahead,
There's the proposal should be in your packet that details what Rocky's proposing to do for 2026. So I guess Bob's soliciting questions you may have with regard to the proposal.
I think
Rocky's here
I think
to help facilitate.
Luke has a presentation as a response to this letter that was presented to the board. Luke?
no, that was the old.
So
No,
if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, my recommendation would be, since we've had a summary of the tremendous progress to restore the building, and we now have a proposal for a scope of services for 2026, I'd like to discuss what was in this year's township budget and communicated as the current board's expectations for 2026, while acknowledging that we're having a discussion about what those should be. So just starting with this aerial photograph showing the outstanding work done at Bondsville Mill. May I use the mouse? What the board was expecting based on presentations in the budget process is that, in the slide advance working. Will you try the arrow key? Frozen. Okay, there we go. 1, the interior of building A would be finished. 2, the exterior of building C would be finished. And 3, the access to the park at grade without using a stair set would be opened. So this was the communicated expectations of 2026 deliverables. Now, I can proceed further to discussing what the scope of work for 2026 would be as proposed, but I don't want to put words in the mouth of the committee who's present. So I'm going to stop my presentation there, but I can go on to similarly map the itemized improvements in the proposal in front of you. So would you like me to continue, or would you like the Bondsville Mill Committee to itemize what's in the proposal?
Well, I think you have the priorities and objectives that was received from the Bondsville Mill construction crew. And I think you created a slide that would represent what that is. Again, off of a proposal that has been amended. So let me say, for everybody's benefit, I made the subsequent slides that I'm going to show here off of a prior proposal. So there could be some discrepancy. So now we're going to go into, first, what I understood the Bondsville Mill Committee to be requesting is the construction crew would control all aspects of the Bondsville Mill building envelope construction, to include, but not limited to, the goals, priorities, objectives, specifications, material selections, techniques, and scheduling. They would provide reports to the Bondsville Mill Committee. So next. One thing they want to do is survey the mill race. Next. Next, they want to survey the condition of building B. Next. They want to survey building C. And they want to survey building D. They want to survey the area between E and F, including an elevator in a ruined state. They want to survey building E. They would like to survey building A. They would like to survey the west bridge to review its capacity. And then finally, they would finish the main floor of building A if time allows. Is that still the proposal? I haven't compared an earlier draft to the current draft. I think they still align mostly.
I'm not sure, regard to building A, survey, is that part of the survey?
Yeah, the survey includes all the buildings, the race and the bridge. And building A is part of what it is that they want to finish.
You want to finish the main floor of
The
building
main
A.
floor, yeah.
Right.
Excuse me.
That's only if time allows.
Excuse me?
Time allows.
Right,
That is what's in this proposal. and
yeah,
that's
the
what
proposal is,
we have to discuss with you as far as
Yeah, I think-
how this relationship is going to move forward, as far as the protocol.
Who was the surveying going to be completed by? In-house or out? Because we had our discussion when we came in for our meeting, and that was the uncertainty. Was the survey going to be completed in-house, or was it going to be completed by an outside engineer?
There are items that would have to include an engineer.
Yeah.
For example, the survey of the West Bridge. It's been a long time since that's been looked at structurally. We have vehicles crossing that bridge, and we need to really understand what the capacity of that bridge is. So that would involve an engineer. The remainder of the survey work, I'm not sure about the survey of Building B, how involved the engineer would be with that. Testing would. Okay. So all of the rest of the work would be done in-house, but there may be some material purchases necessary to support that. For example, to do the work safely in buildings D and E, there might need to be some kind of shoring. So request for materials to support installation of that shoring for the inspection work would be needed. But there's also quite a bit of donations beyond volunteer time that would be included in the survey work, such as personal equipment, such as the backhoe that Rocky suggested, the skid steer machine, scaffolding, that would all be provided by the volunteers. So for the most part, with the exception of the survey of the West Bridge and some materials so that the survey work in buildings D and E could be done safely, it would be at no cost to the township. Is that correct?
I don't think we're talking about cost at this time. I think we're talking about results with regards to the functionality of a park. And I think what Luke has outlined is that at this time, we don't have access to Building A for the public when they come to visit the park. And that was the priority that was set in prior years, that we get Building A up and running and functioning so that people can come in and enjoy the park and understand the park and its purpose. And then that will lead to other, things being able to be completed down there as you go from one step to the next. I think we outlined Building C to get wrapped up in some capacity to the exterior, and that we have access to this park. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. This is a huge facility. It is a mill. It's twice the size almost of this facility here. Does this township and the general public want to have the burden of this facility in perpetuity? That's the big question. It's beautiful what's been done, but does completely rebuilding a mill represents the story of its history? Can that story be told in other ways? And that's the big question we have in front of us now. It would be wonderful to bring this thing back to life. But from my view, it would be wonderful if the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission had it and not the township. Or the Chester County Parks had it and not the township. Relieving the small municipality of the burden of the lifetime upkeep and care of this mill once it's completed. And it seems to me that the vision for the construction crew is to bring this thing back to life. And I think that's wonderful if we could find a way of doing that separate from the township. How do we separate it? Now, I'm just speaking plainly here. How do we get this out of the hands of the township? So the request for full autonomy, which is what's being made here, complete and full autonomy, you do what you want, when you want, how you want, can be achieved. How do we achieve that? Because right now, when you look at this, and everyone can relate to this, who owns a home, it's like saying to a contractor's going to come to your house and, hey, we're going to do this work on your house, and we're going to do it when we want, how we want, when we want, and we don't know when it's going to be finished or what the end result. We know what the end result will be, but there's a lot of uncertainty here. I mean, I don't know anyone that would go full bore into, yeah, no problem, go right ahead, because we have to answer to the taxpayers. Some of the things that I get, the feedback that I get from people is, what are we doing down at that mill? What's going on down there? Nobody gets to use it. Nobody has enjoyment of it. And I'm just being the devil's advocate here. I'm speaking plainly so that everyone understands, how do we bring this thing to the vision that it seems everyone out here has for it, and some of us may not fully share.
Well, that's a very, very good question. Let me address that. To get to what you're speaking about is we have two choices, really, basically, in my mind. is one, we just let the place fall apart. And yes, there is no maintenance to a place. It's always sealed off because it's dangerous. And then there's still parts of this that are still unsafe for the public. And that's what we want to make it safe. Open it up. And then as far as maintenance goes, basically it's just keeping the weeds away once it's established. Can we move it to some other municipality? We'd have to explore that because we have not considered, at least I haven't considered that at all.
I believe that probably hasn't really struck anyone's mind. I've been thinking about it for a couple of years now because I've seen it done in other places.
Well, that's
Where
worth
these became a
exploring.
burden to the municipality, and how did they deal with it? Or they became privatized. Like, there's different places throughout the county that have the similar vision that were achieved privately, you know, or put into another realm of governmental management and financing. You know, we could treat this like we do the fire company or the ambulance service or the library, where we give a block of money to it each year, you know, as part of the park service. But the building part of it is a separate entity that is managed and controlled, and for the most part has a 99-year lease on it by a separate entity. Now, these are the brainstorm ideas that I'm putting out there, but I'd like to meet with the construction crew personally and explore this a little further. But right now, the way that I'm seeing this is that we need to get Building A done. We need to have that open so that the public can go down and enjoy this. No one has any use of this at this point. So to continue with everything that's been presented, and I'm not totally against any of that, but the priorities are a little skewed in my view. I think we have to finish Building A. We have to get the outside of Building C. Like to get some of the inside done, but let's do first things first. And the way this proposal that was presented to us puts Building A all the way at the end and maybe never, which just doesn't work. It just doesn't. And that's where I'm at this time. And I'm really, you know, I understand exactly what's been going on down there, and it's commendable. But now we have to take a step back and really think about this thing in a different way. And that's my view.
I welcome meeting with you, absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to
And
set up a
talk through
meeting
this.
with the construction crew and you guys, and let's start hammering this thing out. Because right now, this isn't, you know, what any of us expected at this time. We still have no use to Building A or no access to it after how many years now?
Can I say a few things?
Yes, please.
Within the Boswell Mill Committee, there are several people on the committee that have a desire to get access to Building A. To do that, we need the support of the construction crew. Their immediate concern is that the areas in Building D and E are visibly falling apart as we watch it, and they have a priority to understanding that so that they know what has to be done, and they can present that to the Board of Supervisors and the township to move forward on that. Can Building A be finished and occupancy provided again? We've had occupancy, we've had programs in Building A. We have used it up until the last year or two when we moved back inside to finish the interior work. Had the programs in there, the interiors was still unfinished. So that's possibly doable in our conversations, what comes out of our conversations. The other thing I want to talk about is the maintenance of these buildings. These buildings were done with 100-year construction in mind, that quality materials have been used,
I understand
triple
that,
layer
Jim.
wood
I don't-
shingle roof.
I don't mean
so
to
that
cut you
the
off, but I
maintenance costs-
completely understand the construction methods here. I'm in the same industry.
Okay.
I do historical restoration work. I am fully aware of it. All right, so I understand the 100-year, but I'm going to tell you, and Rocky understands this as well, they're 24-inch shingles on 7.5-inch pitch, the Cedar Bureau is not going to certify them for more than 50 years, but that's irrelevant to this, all right? It really is.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, Rocky.
That's a Vasconcelos secret. You're 78, you're guaranteed for 80. That roof's done. Right at 80 years. That's all
Okay.
I have.
And that's fine, that's all, that's fine, but they have to be maintained, and there's a lot of factors that come into play.
Canadian.
But that's a small part of this.
Well, it is, but we're worried about maintenance. We have taken steps not to do that. The winter frames are secure.
Sorry, Rocky, do you mind coming up, to the?
Yeah, no, I get that. Listen,
They're on report.
Just easier for the,
I don't want to get upset.
well, you don't, listen, I don't want you to get upset either. And this isn't about upsetting anybody, because I appreciate what's been done down there.
Let me make it real clear, real quick. For 2012 is when I started, not 2014. And in the first year, it took an act of Congress to get one, not a triaxle, one small load of stone to dump in the mud so we could access the building with backhoes. So I took it upon myself to buy stone, bring our backhoe down. It's a big backhoe, it's not a little toy. The skid steer is the biggest one John Deere makes, and probably $4,000 or $5,000 minimum of construction stuff. We core board, we did structural analysis, we sent steel sections in for analysis, we did all kinds of things here before we even started. None of that's on this thing, none of it's there. That's okay, we're not asking for any glory or anything. We're dedicated to saving those buildings. And if we can't do it the way we want to, when we want to, and how we want to, here it is for you. Take over. Building A. You could move in there tomorrow. There's nothing done in there to keep you from being in there and occupying that building. Clear the stuff out, the tables and the saws we took out of there, we'll take them out for you. Move in. It's been used forever. Go ahead.
Can I jump in for a second? Sorry, I'm new here, right? So I'm
Yep.
gonna try to just bring it down a notch, because I know this has you've put a lot of work into it. I think there's a lot of frustration, and like, I'm just trying to
Absolutely.
to have a conversation here. So I read the master plan from 2010 that was dropped off, right? So as I'm looking at this, there are some different options, and one of them talks about raising buildings B and D. The knees, is that what it's called? Yeah, the knee walls.
That's
And
correct.
so my question is too, and I'll go back to building A in a second, but when we're looking at this mill and the plan, I think there are some buildings that we're raising to the knee walls and some that we're trying to restore. Is that fair?
And what we're doing is consistent with that.
Okay, so when you're talking about
That's
surveying.
not quite correct, Emily.
Okay,
The reason that was presented that way, the reason that study was written up the way it was financial reasons. They didn't realize that they would have this construction crew. They didn't realize that, they estimated the roof on Building C for $150,000. You don't have anywhere near that in there, and you got the roof, the windows, the stair tower. They don't understand that stuff. And so I'm just correcting that a little bit.
right. And that's if you all do the work and you commit to do the work.
That's
right?
correct.
So, but I think we have to look at the master plan and figure out what do we want to do, because to me, sitting up here, looking at the balance of the taxpayer money and the construction crew that we have and the benefit that this park will have, I don't think it's necessarily restoring all the buildings. I understand that if it moves to historic commission, or if there's a private entity who owns it, that might be more realistic. But from a taxpayer perspective, I'm not sure about that. I'd have to talk about it.
Not to
right?
interrupt you.
Yep.
We never said we were going to restore all the buildings.
Okay.
We've never indicated that in any way. What we're going to do is look at them and report to you what's going down there.
But
Is the
why?
80-foot chimney going to fall over
Okay.
and crush the buildings? We want to find that out.
That's fair.
Okay? We want to go into building D, where the furnaces are. The whole facade's coming in. It's a pretty bad show in there. People drift in there, you can put all the signs up, all the cones, all the tape, anything you want to do, they're still in there.
Yeah, I think this is
So
an important thing, right?
these
Because
kind of things got to get done, and that's what we want to do in 2026.
the why is important. right? And how much time and effort and energy. From my perspective, if it's an energy thing or a time perspective, go ahead, right? Like I'm okay with that. It's when it comes down to what was budgeted and what's being spent and can we have a conversation? And also, if you go back to the master plan, in here, it says that the township has to partner with whoever is doing this work to figure out the materials and things because of long-term maintenance. It's in the master plan.
And we did that.
I know, but I think we have to continue to do that.
We are continuing to do that. We haven't stopped
Well,
at any point.
And sitting up here listening to the back and forth, it sounds to me, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but when I'm listening, it sounds to me like I don't want to have that conversation, I just want to do. And I think that's what's being received. And so if that is not the case, if this can be a conversation, I think it's a completely different story.
I want to be real gentle here.
Yep.
Is that you have, as you well know, a pretty experienced crew.
Yep.
And we also have an engineer on our crew. So we know those buildings inside and out and upside and down. I've been here since 1954. So now, what we want to do is stop reacting to every little situation that comes up. Can't you just do this? Can't we build stuff just like this? Can we move this over here? Can we set these rocks for benches? On and on and on and on. It wore us out because we couldn't focus on what we want to do. We can't save the buildings. We have the capability. I have 3 mills, not 1, and they have been doing restoration construction for almost 50 years. We have the tooling, tenoners, all the equipment, buying lumber at unbelievably low prices, and we pumped it right in there and never asked for a penny. I've got thousands and thousands of dollars in there of my own stuff, putting it in. And we can take that building D and stabilize it. Will it be restored? Who knows what the specs are, but it will be stabilized, so in the future it can be, and it won't hurt anybody, and you'll have all your reports to make your decisions. That's all we're asking. We have that expertise. We have all kinds of lasers and sound things and cameras and all kinds of construction stuff that we don't talk about much, but we have access to all that, and we are constantly using it. And we're donating that. We're not asking for any money for that.
Rocky, real quick. I look at this as the surveys have to come first, and I think you guys are suggesting the surveys first, only for the simple reason of safety. If you can finish building A tomorrow and all of a sudden someone's walking down and the chimney falls down on the other side of C,
You hit it right on the head.
what good is fixing A if someone gets hurt on? So me personally, I see the surveys as the most important part right now, and then backtrack to the finishing.
Then sit back and look at the reports, read the stuff, and say, well, guys, we sort of think that this is where we ought to head.
And what cost-wise are you guys projecting the survey?
We have $20,000 budgeted this year. 25. Well, I say 20 because I always take it off because of porta potties and all the other stuff that comes through. So that is the money that's allocated. It is allocated just like Luke said. Finish building C, exterior. We can't do that. It's impossible. You could put 500,000 in there. You're not going to finish the building exterior C until you take care of a few things that are going on around it. It's too dangerous. So that's why we're not doing building C. We've been told we don't like it. We've been told we're dragging our feet, filling all the blanks, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is we understand the tank that's up there. We understand how heavy that thing is. We understand the proximity of that to the door, to the people going in and out, to a handicap ramp, God forbid. So, no, stop. Let's put some sense into this place. Building A, the same thing. It eventually evolved. The water's moving down below there. The guy that put the trails in for Pico took all the drain pipes out. We got flooding going on now. Let's see what's going on and fix that.
Is that why you want to survey building A?
We want to survey building A for those reasons. It's written in there, stormwater management, humidity control, and on and on.
But it comes down to safety is what you're telling me.
Safety and common sense.
and long-term maintenance. You know, you want to solve your,
But, and I'll just say, I don't have a construction background, so, right, so it's not necessarily common sense to me, which is why I'm asking some of the
That's
questions.
why we're here, because we
Yep.
do. And so, in a general way, we want to go all the way up to the head race and say, this is the condition of those valves and stuff that's on our property, okay, that maybe we should just fill them in with concrete, maybe not. You have the right of way. You help us make that decision. We'll work our way right on down the mill race and show you exactly what's going on to repair it. We've got diversion gates, the water doesn't have to go in the building, see, everybody's in a panic about that. And take care of that. So in the future, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, that's all stabilized. That's all we're saying. We're not doing it. We're reporting on this is what
so this
has
is
to
going
be
to be an
done
iterative
if you
process.
want to do it.
This is going to be an iterative process.
Right, well, and I think one of the main things for me is we have to be able to work together and have input, right?
Right.
So whenever it's we'll do things how we want, when we
I'm
want.
struggling holding the crew together,
Understood.
okay? They've been there a long time, and all this controversy that's come up with gardens and all these other programs has worn them out. They want to go, we got a lot of places we can go volunteer for, all over the place.
Well, that's all the more reason why I'm putting the idea out there that you can do what you want, when you want, how you want with the buildings.
Right.
To separate it from the township in some way.
Fully
Now, I don't know
appreciate it.
how that looks or how that would work,
I fully appreciate that.
because
But
that
if
gives
that
you
doesn't happen quickly, we'll be gone.
complete and full autonomy to the construction crew to do what you want, and the township's out of it, so that we don't have to understand what you're doing. That's yours.
That's
You
been
do it.
going on, that's been going on since I started here, that conversation.
But nobody's
But
ever.
nothing's ever happened.
Nothing, no, it's never been put to the forefront. It's always been that this is what we want from the township, and we'll just go, we'll work on this particular building with the notion that the township will always own this portion of the park.
So are you saying, stop construction till that's taken care of?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we've got to work out a long-term plan. If it's you guys that come up with some sort of private entity, 501c3, or does something that is
I'm
able.
way too busy doing bricks and mortar and putting stuff together.
Then we have
that I
to
hang out doing
rely on
politics.
Jim's access to the historical realm to see how we would facilitate something like that, so that once it separates from the township, it doesn't come back to us.
So,
You're
so
talking
I can
about-
get this clear. We're parallel now. There's one effort to take it out of the township realm and put it into some other realm.
That would be one
That's
idea.
one idea. Parallel with that, we have deterioration going on, we have safety issues going on, we have a lot going on. We want to take care of that. So if.
And then
if this-
parallel it with this, it's a park. People want to go down to the park, and people want to go to the
Let 'em
building
go.
A and see what
We would be
historical
totally happy.
artifacts you have.
We'd be totally happy.
I mean,
Taking our stuff out of there and leaving. Because if that's the case, if that's the priority, I appreciate it, I understand it, I want the same thing, Frank, but I don't see how to do it. So it's got to happen. Talking about it doesn't make it happen.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is,
First time we've had this conversation,
Yeah,
and
what
we've
I'm saying
been
is-
this candid about this.
yeah, I'm being candid too. We are totally okay, support, even, call me up, I'll answer questions. Bring another crew in, get another set of volunteers, get fresh and go. We'll pull out, we have no problem with that at all.
Okay, I think for the short term, we're going to have to continue to work together in an iterative way, at least to do the survey work, understand what's out there, understand what needs to be done, what could be done, have the conversation with you, and get our marching orders for how to proceed. In the short term, we are going to continue to work within the township on this. Long term, your idea of creating ownership by an outside entity through a 501c3 or whatever, I think that is going to take years to develop. And if you're looking to fund it through something like a 501c3, it takes many years to develop a base of funding to support that. So it's something we could look at in the longer term and maybe start working on now, but that is going to take time to develop something like that. You mentioned to me several months ago the model of Sugartown. You know, they have a 501c3 that funds these historic buildings. It's not owned by the municipality. I talked to Heather Reifer, who was the manager or the executive director.
Heather was the executive director there. Well, they had one main donor that financed the entire project.
It worked for them because they had a huge donor that allowed that to
that
work.
opportunity is rare, and I
Yes, it
understand
is.
that,
Yeah.
but it's, it happens. It happens. You never know.
Oh, you're right. We should look. If we don't look, we're not going to identify that. The other thing I want to bring into the conversation is maintenance costs. And I mentioned it earlier, we're talking about quality materials that's going to push any real maintenance of these buildings off. Building A, the exterior is done. Building C, for the most part, the exterior is done. There's some work that needs to be done on the north side, but the exterior is done. The maintenance cost on those buildings is going to be negligible in the shorter term. The plan budget-wise for maintenance down the road, a little bit of money put away over the years makes sense. We give the fire department $100,000 a year to fund what they're doing there, and that's on top of the fire tax that they get from the community. $100,000 is going to be way above what we would be looking at for maintenance costs for the mill buildings here. I also want to point out that it's not unusual for townships to take ownership of historic structures. All of our neighboring municipalities have done that. You have Euclid Township, they meet in the Caldwater House. Historic.
Incorporated that into their township building.
It's not part of their township building. It's a separate
I
structure.
understand, but-
The historical commission meets there. They have a museum there. They own the school.
The
They own the
campus is
schoolhouse
there,
in
and it's just
Lionville.
It's just a house. It's the size of Building A. It's just to put it in perspective. I understand that. And Callan has the old farm up on the hill that's fallen down. The barn's ready to collapse. I mean, I get that.
No, they have the new roof on that, and they have a strong support from the township to rehabilitate that and create a park in and of itself. There is strong support in Collin Township for that. You have Wallace Township. They have the schoolhouse on Fairview Road there that the historical commission meets in. You have Upper Euclid Township, that beautiful barn that they use for events, and the neighboring historic resource. It's right on Route 100 there. You have Euclid Township, I've already mentioned. My point is that it's not unusual in our area for municipalities to take on ownership of these. And that's not to say we shouldn't.
The ones that you pointed out are the size of farmhouses.
For today's purposes, just real quick, was the ask for the survey in lieu of what was?
Mr. Chairman, if you would recognize me, I have a framing exercise. I'm going to try to be neutral in my presentation here, but I see basically where we're at today is, what are we doing in 2026? I feel like listening here that we can achieve a compromise. What are we doing in 2026? I don't see any problem. Number two, what does the finished park look like? And I have to say that nobody really knows. There's not a consistent vision, and we're not going to resolve that today. So I'm fine tabling number two. I think the hardest part of what we're talking about today is actually number three. Who decides? And who is responsible for what's happening out there? I think that's going to be our hardest part of the conversation. As a framing, as just kind of a compromise on what I'm hearing, I've done a presentation where I showed what the township was looking for, and I've done a presentation where the board was, what the committee was looking for and what the township was looking for. This slide is kind of a medium between. Okay, so what's changed in here is shown on purple. I'm saying, okay, what are we doing in 2026? Surveys are cool, but we definitely need to get building open as a first priority.
But I disagree with that. You get A open and someone walks by and the chimney falls on them over at C and D, what good did having A open do you? We're putting the car.
120-foot chimney fell on 3 historic buildings. Fortunately, nobody was in there, not in this state.
And understanding that the surveys are for safety and the fact that we're worried about a chimney falling, another building falling, I tend to agree.
Which one would take a year, stepping back, getting the survey done, reporting to you guys, and then you can go who decides and who does what and all the other stuff.
And let me ask too, what is left in building A? Like, what does it mean to finish building A?
Just needs trimmed out, right? When I was in there with Jim, it looked like it was half, got to finish trimming it out, really. The window wells.
The ground floor, that's one floor. You got a floor above that where there's insulation issues, there's wiring issues, there's code issues up there. That should be straightened out. You've got missing ceiling, small section, needs to be replaced. And you've got the whole bottom with water flowing through, water coming up into the billboards. So what are you looking at for scope? To complete building A, you would take care of all that stuff.
And let me ask,
To make it so people can go in there and use it, you can do that tomorrow without anything, just clean it up and go in.
that's my question, right? Like, what is it safe to let building A be safe to the public in a reasonable way?
I'll be able to tell you that after the survey.
So one of the other things with regards to building A that we haven't really talked about, if it becomes the welcoming center, so to speak, for the park and the educational and historical centerpiece where it has the artifacts and the storyboards about the park and the rest of the facilities and buildings, do we have some sort of handicap bathroom in there? Okay, because I mean, we could do a storage tank for something like that. It doesn't have to have a drain field.
But it wouldn't be in the building.
What's that?
It wouldn't be in.
The bathroom.
That's correct.
Okay, so they wouldn't be able to put it in the bathroom because of the way it's constructed, trying to rough in plumbing and
Training, all kinds.
water lines and different things like that. So we'd have to do a separate bathroom that would be handicap accessible for the park. I'm speaking out loud here. I know we have porta potties down there. In order to get some sort of public facility down there, which we technically don't have, other than the porta potties, we'd have to put a storage tank in, and then we'd have to put a bathroom in somewhere.
That,
On the map.
we looked at something similar to what you put in over at the community park. As a matter of fact, what you put in at the community park was the result of our research for what we could do at our park. That's on the wish list. It's expensive. Right now, we're meeting the needs of providing for handicapped people that need to go to the restroom. With the porta johns at the east parking
Wanted to
lot.
check one other thing.
Sure, go ahead, Rob.
I have the inspection report allowing us to use building A. In the line, the use says, during the discussion, no assembly, okay? But in the line that's written on the report, it says for a museum only. Because at that time, that space was circulating through there and not congregating. And that's a big step. 20 is the limit with 2 due sets. So 2 volunteers have to be there. That means no more than 18 people in that building at that time. So if we're going to go with assembly, meetings, events, back through the process.
You have to limit the people in that go through, on a tour basis.
And that's a long conversation. One of the things we looked at to provide a second exit to building A, and one of the reasons we have the limitations we do is because we only have one entrance, one exit, is to provide a connection to building C. The floor of building A is on the same level as the 3rd floor or the second floor, excluding the
Not to-
basement.
I don't want to interrupt you, but the whole thing was exit lighting, panic bar,
Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
The level can go up and assembly can go up without another exit. The
Okay.
distance between the
All right,
double
my
doors
misunderstanding.
and the back of the thing is okay. Can't use the second floor, obviously, we have to fire rate the stairs anyway, and we can't use the basement because the access is too small. But
There's more to A than just saying we can do this, that, and open it up. So there's a conversation.
what do you
Yes.
want to complete A? Do you want assembly in there? Do you want tables in there? Do you want to have meetings in there? That's beyond the use that's been approved. So
And
I can take it through there, that's not a problem.
If I may, for the survey purpose. As an outsider looking in, I would say let's start with the highest priorities first, the things that are most by, that would be the chimney, that would be building D, that would be between E, that area there where it hasn't been really touched yet. But I would take it a step further and say, at that point, after the survey of the highest points that are detrimental to human beings walking by, then maybe you guys come back to us and say, this is what we found on the chimney, E, and F. And then we can at least decide, you know what I mean? What, do we stop everything and concentrate on deconstruction?
Chimney's okay for another
Building
10
A,
years. Okay, let's
An
move on to
example
something else
is you're going to get a
versus,
survey of building A. All the things that I mentioned are right up here, and I'm missing a bunch, I can guarantee you that. But that'll be all written out. What the drains are, where they go,
All right.
even some anticipated costs. You'll get that for B, you'll get that for C, you'll get that for D, E, and F, the whole place.
The chimney concerns me. I mean, obviously, with Downingtown, they took down all their mills. They tried to leave the one in the middle of town where the restaurant is, and they tried to leave the one smokestack up there, but it became unsafe and they had to take it down and get it out of there. We may be faced with the same thing, because you can see the extension that was put on that chimney where it went up to a certain height, and then they continued it after a certain period of time to get it higher. You may wind up taking some of that down. See, you can see the mortar separation joint where they raised it.
One boiler there originally.
Yeah, and then they added a second.
It wasn't the same two
Yeah.
boilers that are in now, they put two in it.
And from the purpose, I mean, if you have, obviously, if someone comes in and does a safety survey or engineering survey, they're gonna recommend that you bring that chimney down. I can see that.
I sort of disagree.
Or parts of it, parts of it.
the base could be shored up. I mean, the bricks are deteriorating.
It's
The
pretty
core
high.
might be okay, and it's a matter of just
We've
shoring it up, so
examined
to
the
speak.
footer.
If any-
It's about 9 feet deep of solid concrete
Mm-hmm.
reinforced. So the footer I'm happy with, it's gonna support the vertical load.
Sure.
I don't know how much rotation things we're gonna get, but we're gonna get into that and take care of
Sway
it.
you got on it.
But the chimney is 7 bricks thick with a liner. Built better because of what you noticed in the brick. They took it all the way down to the throat and went back up. The facade has changed. So that's a relatively recent, not say 18th century, that's for sure. It's not mid-19th century.
No.
That's for sure. It's late 19th century. There was a lot around that. So we will find out exactly, because we've done our own little, lower core bores in there, and we've done our stuff to make sure it doesn't fall on top of us. But I still believe that education is the best thing to help move this thing along. Let's get the survey done. 20,000, we're asking for use of that money if necessary. We're not gonna go out and spend it, but I think there's enough structural material there to do the shoring and stuff. But what if we get into it and we've got to spend 7 days correcting all this material down there just so we can shore up something, when we could spend $500 for some pressure treated 6x6. So it's going to be that kind of trade-off. We may need a lift. In building D on the roof up there, there's stuff falling in. It is asbestos. There is some danger with that. We would like to take the lift up there, clean that stuff off so it's not falling on us while we're doing it. Maybe go ahead and put the rust inhibitor, on top of that to keep the steel from going down. And that stuff's cheap, and that goes on fast. and then clean that building out, then do the survey in there. So we may do that for safety reasons. What would that be? It'd be a lift for 1 week, $1,100, $1,200, something like that, and just move on through there. And we'll go to the committee and say, Ali, this is what we're finding. This is what we think we should do. What do you guys think? They'll bring it to you, you get your approvals and go through all that. Meanwhile, we got plenty to do. That's all we're saying. We're just saying you've got to take advantage. If I was a township supervisor, which I definitely am not, but I am a resident and I do pay taxes, this is an opportunity with this crew to get a lot done at very, very little money. All you have to do is ask Panoni to do an assessment of that chimney, and you'll figure out real quick what that costs. Now, we have an engineer. We do know what we're doing, but that's not a certified legal document engineering report. You'll have to take that with a grain of salt, decide on your own. Well, okay, you found this, that, and the other, you say it's safe. I think we should do a formal thing. But at the end of the year, see how we did. It's not a lot of money, I don't think, compared to everything else going on. At the end of the year, you sit down and say, well, guys, that worked, it didn't work, we would rather seen this, that, and the other. Thank you, no thank you, whatever. Then go forward.
I don't think it's as much the money as the direction that we're trying to understand. That's really the focus.
Well, then,
I'm going to let Luke's got an outline here that will, we've all talked enough about this, I think, at this point. We've all got our ideas and our thoughts out there. Let's try to get this some sort of decision on what we're doing here.
Okay.
All right?
Can you switch the slide?
Can I get a handle on way you see these discussions proceeding? One of the reasons we're presenting here today is Emily suggested we come to the public meeting so we could have the conversation with all three of you to avoid the sunshine law issue. Moving forward, as far as approvals of what we do or the direction that we're going to proceed on for 2026, how do you see that playing out?
Well, I mean,
how is
we
that
would
gonna
work through, obviously, Luke,
Okay.
once the board gives him the direction, right?
My proposal actually
Yeah.
covers that. If,
Okay.
And that's fine, let's do that, but I mean, on a side note, of what I had suggested, with regards to the brainstorming group for long-term autonomy on this entire project would be something I'd be willing to come and meet with you guys, anytime you're available, and sit down with you maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks and see what we're thinking.
We welcome the additional connection.
I mean, I'd love to come down and sit with you guys. I just, Kyle was always the liaison, I kind of backed away from it and let him do it, but I would be glad to come down there and pursue the idea that kind of gives you guys the autonomy you seek. That's really what I'd like to see, because then, at that point, the sky's the limit. You guys can fulfill your dreams and the dreams, for the public.
What once we're away from the township? Or you're talking about through communication with you?
I'm sorry?
The sky's the limit, we can do what we please.
Once it's yours, once it's away from the
Once it's
township.
outside of the township.
Yeah.
you would start with,
That's yours. What?
I hadn't even thought about exploring that, so that's something
I don't want to say the idea I've thought of before, but
in other words, that's the sequence we're on.
have a conversation with that. I heard Kyle say the priority should be life safety, hence that's why I did this. Okay, so that's, okay. So,
Well, go ahead, Luke.
okay, all right. So I started my presentation with blue markers that indicated where the current budget and expectations of the board were when we started. I then had a second layer that showed in the mustard color all of what was included in the proposal before the board here. I've tried to, based on what I'm hearing from the conversation, address a few things. I've added to the scope of service for 2026 the surveys. I have indicated that I hear from the board that finishing the interior of A is a priority. I heard from Kyle that the surveys that affect life safety are also a priority. So the two changes in purple you see there is building D, building E, and building A's interior. When I started the conversation with what are we deciding today, I said, what are we doing in 2026? I think that's easy. We can figure that out. The third thing I said is who does what? I think that's the harder thing. And so that's where I've made changes in the lower right. The proposal was the construction crew to control all aspects of Bondsville Mill building envelope construction to include but not limited to goals, priorities, objectives, specifications, material selection, techniques, and scheduling. I'm going to be just as frank as I can on this. With all due respect to the outstanding work done by the crew, I will never recommend that the board delegate that authority to the Bondsville Mill Committee. But I do respect a critique that feels like there's too many cooks in this kitchen. You're getting all these missing priorities. So instead of that, I propose that the construction crew annually present their goals for the coming year directly to the board, and that they do so before the budget process so they do not feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. But I would never agree with the wholesale delegation of authority to the committee. So that's where I've come at this as what I consider a compromise on what we've discussed today.
Well, comment, got this year, and we didn't do that. Got to get through that. Then next year, what you're saying is stick with number one, in my mind, go through that whole thing, and then report that to you. And you set, that would give us the goals. It would give us the goals the way we see them, what we think is right, you know, all that stuff. And you would then say, oh, yes, in between, whatever. But certainly, no money comes out township unless the board of supervisors approve it. And so, without any money, it's limited that I can donate. So it just slows things down. That's all it'll do. Eventually, it'll all get done. It won't cost the township any money, but it's.
How do we work together? I can't delegate all the responsibility. I have to answer to the taxpayers. We're responsible for some of the safety, right? But can we work together? Because you guys have the expertise. You're experts in your field. I recognize that.
Doesn't that do that?
Not the first one. The first one is like, to me, is we're just gonna go off and tell you what we did. And that I can't be okay with. If we're working together and talking, like, I'm not gonna tell you what material to use high level. I'm not gonna tell you what tools to
Shooting
use.
out really clearly, I thought,
Yeah.
2026 objective.
Oh,
Okay.
the surveys and stuff are,
So the
yes.
2026, I think, is pretty much there. If we get time, then we will work on A. We might. We also can divide crews up. We don't need everybody on, you know, standing around thing. So we've got to figure those. I don't know all the answers.
But I think you all can manage that. Like, I'm okay personally with you all managing that. I don't need to be involved in that. Right, but by Luke's proposal of saying, here's what we want to do. So you're going to do the surveys, and then you're going to say, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's what the survey showed. Here's what's safe. Here's what unsafe, whatever. You can come back to us in time for the budget to say, here's what we want to do, and here's the money we're going to need. And then we can adequately account for that, or budget for that, or say, hey, we only have this much, can we move that? And then it's more of a plan. Is that fair?
Yeah, because realistically, only one big project will get done a year. It's not like you guys are superheroes and can do 10 at a time.
Next year, saying
I
this
thought
is-
most of the material was already in place for building A, from what I understood. When I walked through it with you, Jim, I mean, it was a matter of, from what I saw, it was like trimming out some of the window casings and, you know, some other things, really, just cleaning it up.
Yeah, I'm a detail guy, so I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
you know, there is, I already bought.
And I guess,
I already bought with my own money the poplar to finish it out because I couldn't see buying wood. Can I buy some wood lumber? No. you already told me you didn't want me taking some money anymore.
Well, that was taken out of context. It was designed to try and get us to privatizing this section of
Anyway,
this
I
bill.
bought the poplar.
And that's what that was about, so it wasn't to upset you, believe me. That's the last thing was on my mind. It was taken out of context,
Yeah,
and, you know.
got 10, 12 years down there, we're sensitive. So I bought the poplar, now I gotta get it through the mill. The mill is tied up, we are running 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and barely getting Sundays off. But I gotta get it through there. Once I get it through there, then we'll have the material to finish. What you observed is not correct. There is material needed.
Yeah, so I guess the point I wanted to make is that the funding that we have in place now shouldn't be taken up much by Building A.
The issue is that the survey is going to take a lot of time, and we want to get that done this year. And to go to Building A, let's just talk about that. Everybody shows up. We'll go down, set the shop up for a beam. Let me go up to Trithol and pull the lumber for you and get that S2S. And then it takes a lot of time, okay, because it's all volunteer. We're not picking up the phone and say, hey, can you deliver T&G such and such and such and such at $8 a foot? What we're saying is, can you deliver 80 cents a board foot? And we will it. We don't charge anything for it, but it's got to have patience. That's all we do. So we're not focused on A. Because there's B going on there to make sure that what we're doing ends up being long-term correct. That's what we've done so far. And we don't see any need for use of Building A. We only agreed that it's a museum. So do you want to change that? Do you want to use the building? Do you want some assembly there? Tables is one of the things. Extra people, give us some direction. Then we can say in the survey, this is what it takes to get that. But you can't assume right now you can use Building A if we finish trimming. We've done one whole wall. We've done 2/3 of the back wall. We're only short maybe 100 feet. But yeah, we could do that. But that doesn't mean using that building is up to code. Doesn't mean that at all. That's the issue there.
And the survey will help determine.
You think it is, and a whole lot of people think it is, but I know it's not.
And the survey will help determine what is safe to use in Building A and not, correct?
Put extra lights on here, the panic hardware here, this is roughly the budget that would be necessary, this is the timeline for that. Then you can choose at the end of this year, you know what, I think we should move forward with that. Or I think we should go ahead and stabilize the furnace. Whatever, fill in the blanks, but you have facts.
Well, let's try to bring this to a close here today with regards to making a decision on. So Kyle will be back, right? At some point. I guess he went to the bathroom.
Yes.
And then wait for him to come back. So Luke, one more time, can we run through what you have as the priorities here? And Rocky, I think you suggested that his priorities aren't exactly what you were thinking.
Well, what I'm thinking is logic and common sense.
We want to try and bring
So
his
we
thinking.
start up at the far west of that particular thing, the right of way. We assess that. That's not going to take that long to do that. We work our way right down the middle. Because that affects the survey. That's coming out of the way. The bridge, the wet. And we put in pipes to stop the scouring. We have a whole report, okay? This was one of them, and we stopped the scouring. We diverted the water down there. It's holding, but that scouring stopped the foundation. But the understructure, still piping. A lot of expressed concern about that in the first engineering report. All that kind of stuff. That was 14 years ago. I would imagine between then and now, we probably, five, we don't have another engineering report. We don't have the expertise to do it. So I would get that because people are coming across with trucks and cars and all kinds of stuff. And I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm sorry. I am. So I would think that could parallel. You guys would say, get that done. We get, but you take the full out of orange, I guess that. And you guys can approve it or not approve it, but at least that could go on. Then we move ourselves down into, I guess, building A, I would do first. Get that squared away. In building B, we get that squared away. D, we get that squared away. Move into D and E, because those are going to take a lot of time. And I like it to be warm, I like it to be, manageable environment-wise. And we'll get those stuff. Then we're going down into the area between the furnace. Hot wall coming down, is this corner falling in? All that kind of stuff that we're totally aware of, the back wall and so on, will give you a report.
So what I'm looking at Luke's chart here, and he has building D as the number one priority survey. Survey building E is the number two priority. You're saying you're going to jump to the bridge as a number three, and then you'll come back to building A as number four.
Yeah, I'm not really prioritizing blue gas, okay? I'm saying is, four guys, well, pretty regularly, they go 2 days a week, and they go 5, 8-hour days, we come down all the way through here. Whatever that resource is, that's how the allocation goes, that's how the priorities go, inspection. So it's not gonna be any good for me to take on building D if I don't have Jim Belvera. If I don't have him, I don't have my commercial guy, I don't have my steel guy, I don't have Carl, I don't have my engineer, and so on. So that's how it evolves. So what we do is we start with, I'm not going to do, no raise, and start working our way down. Well, then Jim shows up, and Carl shows up, and everybody shows up, we leap over to building D, or we might do building A. It just depends on, I would like to give you some really accurate stuff, but it just doesn't run that way, and that's our frustration that we have reached. Really, we want to do building A survey, we would like to get people in there, see, any fall down, bird tower up in the back. All these things, when they come up into surface and consciousness, then there's a tendency, and I fully respect it, to, what about why don't you focus on this, or why don't you do that? All right, but we've been there so long and so involved in that project, I really think there should be a certain amount of trust. All right, but we're going to give you the report at the end of the year of everything. How we do it in between and priorities and this and that and the other, that's management. And you guys are still what we know is part.
But within the survey, he's asking for flexibility, so what areas are done.
I would say absolutely. You're there every day, you know best, but I would just say public safety is priority one. After that, have at it.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going to do it.
So, on the request for organizational changes, I think Luke inserted number 3, which is construction crew goals will be reviewed directly with the Board of Supervisors annually before budget process.
No problem with that, Paul.
All right?
So we're talking about August,
Yeah.
but we get into the budget process starting in August, right?
All right, so is there any action needed here with regards to this?
I don't think there was an action needed for a vote, but I think it would be important just to specify, as I looked at it, and I would think it would be like mine's view, safety first, surveys second.
So are we going to revise this chart and share it with, the Bondsville group, and so everybody understands, or how we proceed in here? Just so I want to tamp down the confusion. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that, when we leave here today, there's no animosity, and that we are trying to deal with what we have at hand.
That's oversimplified. And
All right, so, well then, where does that leave us as far as trying to make some sort of decision or give direction, I guess? Because you guys came before us seeking direction, right?
the direction we're looking for is survey that property with facilities and that building in the road this year, towards the end of the year. That's simple.
Okay.
If we get that direction, we're good.
And then you'll, in addition to that, report to the Board of Supervisors.
Priority number 3.
All right.
Me.
All right. What's where we're at? Okay, so there's really no motion or anything that we need to make here. All right.
Okay,
Go ahead.
for clarity, all the surveys are priority 1, and finishing the interior of A is priority 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. I disagree with that, but I respect that, and that sounds like a good compromise.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll be chatting, because I definitely want to get down there when, I guess, well, you got warm spots down there where we can meet, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not that cold.
all right,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Yes, sir. Can you come up to the podium? We want to meet you.
I just had a question about this, because I keep hearing safety come up. And we're gonna do a survey, okay? And then we're gonna work on A, but in the survey, if something substantial comes out safety-wise, wouldn't you have to do that first?
I would think that would have to probably have discussion and decision made, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm-
Common sense kind of leads us in that direction.
Yeah, I'm just, when we start talking about surveys and safety, I'm saying, well, what if something comes out that we're expecting a 10-year life and it's only got a 6-month life?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at, okay?
Just so you know, this is Mark LeBlanc, but he's on the...
I'm on the budget committee.
Yes.
And because we were gonna be talking about something that the budget committee's been involved with as far as the funding and the advice to the supervisors, I wanted to be.
Well, hopefully this report, before the budget process starts, the report to the Board of Supervisors will help them to give direction to you
And that
as
certainly
far
makes
as your
sense.
budgeting priorities.
I think we, as I said to Al before, maybe we've been doing this a little bit the wrong way, because we're trying to fund you without knowing what maybe the supervisors want to give you as advice, direction, or whatever.
Right.
And this, I think we're going in
Okay.
that direction now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark. All right, so we're going to move on to, there's nothing under subdivision and zoning applications. We have ordinances as resolutions for consideration. A, ordinance 1 of 2026, speed change of Old Horseshoe Pike. Tom?
You have before you ordinance 1 of 2026, which would set the speed limit on Old Horseshoe Pike at 25 miles per hour. The ordinance is in accordance with the Pennsylvania Vehicle Code, and it's been properly advertised for enactment this morning. So we would need a motion.
We get a motion?
Yep, I make a motion to approve ordinance 1 of 2026 for speed change of Old Horseshoe Pike.
And just for clarification, that'll be 25 miles an hour?
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, I don't want to take up Brandywine water now, because this has been too long. We've got a session into this. There will be an executive session following this meeting to discuss personnel matters. I get a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.